Welcome to Titan Talk! Dun dun dun! Hey guys, today is May 19th, and this is episode 4 of Titan Talk. My name is Kimber, and I'll be breaking down all the latest about the newest episodes of Attack on Titan, so obviously this will be filled with spoilers! We're going to dive into the plot, character developments, we're going to talk about my favorite quote, and we're going to talk about the new Titan developments that we've learned in this episode. Later I'll go into my predictions for the next episode and talk about some other news in the Attack on Titan media world. Also, I don't own any of the storylines, characters, or events in the Attack on Titan world, nor do I own any of the rights pertaining to the show. Alright, let's do this! So this episode was chapter 32, it was called Close Combat, and holy crap, that's what this episode was. There's tons and tons of fighting between the Armored Titan and Eren. It's super exciting. It's good old-fashioned brawl. So what else happened in this episode? First off, the Colossal Titan ate Ymir. Yeah, a Titan ate another Titan. I've never seen that before. Oh, and they said, and one other, quote unquote. So we don't know who the other person was that they ate. They're just nameless. I thought it was Mikasa at first, which would have been devastating to everything that was happening, because there's Eren on the front lines fighting it out. But it was not her. Don't know who it was, which was relieving, I guess. Then Hanji yells out to attack the Colossal Titan. We look into the minds of the scouts and they think, oh yeah, this will be super easy because he doesn't have any armor and he can't really move that fast. However, we figured out that he's got a power. This Titan can emit heat. Yeah, this Titan turned into a furnace and tried to burn everyone alive. They all fell back, including Krista. By the way, they called her Krista. Her new name has not spread throughout the scouts just yet. I feel like we'll get to that in a future episode. And then we get back to the Armored Titan and Eren fighting it out, and Eren is not doing so well. He is knocked down on his back. He's getting so angry, but he gets back up. And here's the thing, a lot of these shows have this theme where if you believe in something enough, you will achieve it. This is very akin to another series that I've watched. It's called Gurren Lagann. If you're not familiar with it, I assume most of you are. The whole show basically surrounds this idea of if you have the desire to achieve your goals, you will achieve your goals. Also, while Eren is fighting and getting his butt just straight up handed to him, Mikasa is on the front lines trying to help. Now, I noticed that when she was fighting this Titan, she was stabbing the gold part of him, but there are many spots on this Titan that are not covered in armor. I realized this the first time I saw this Titan. We'll get to that in a minute. So now we rewind to the training. Basically, we see Annie teaching Eren how to fight. And there was this moment where Rainer had been knocked out and he flew in and landed on his back. And they even address, like, why did Rainer come flying this way? And they don't really address that at all. Also, we look at Annie and Mikasa. We see Annie and Mikasa just being mean to each other. It must be something that I'm forgetting from season 1. Annie calls Mikasa a beast, that she's not even human, and she just has so much hate in her eyes. I don't know where that's from. Then we get back to the fight that's happening between Eren and the Armored Titan. Eren pulls out this memory of being taught how to fight, and he uses this to get the Armored Titan down. And it worked for a bit. He was down, but not out, and there is this conflict of Eren keeps getting the Titan down, but he keeps getting back up. Then Hanji has a moment where she communicates a game plan to Eren. There was this really sweet moment where she's standing on Eren's shoulders, and he nods and he grunts in confirmation of hearing this plan, and she has to pause because she's just overwhelmed with talking to a Titan. I mean, if we remember who she was before all of this started to build, she was very into researching Titans, and I think she had gotten away from that for a bit, but in this moment she had come back to that. I thought that was super cool. Then she makes this realization that I had already made the first time I had seen this armored titan. It's that he's not 100% armored. Yeah, I know. I can see a bunch of red tendons hanging out. Why was Mikasa stabbing the armored part and not the tendony part earlier? I don't understand. It did not take a Hanji to come to that conclusion. I came to that conclusion way earlier. This armored titan was never fully armored. Also, at the top of this episode, I noticed the backs of the armored titan's legs were covered with, well, armor. But later, when they make the realization that he is not 100% covered in this armor, the backs of his legs are not covered, his calves. It could have broken off in battle. We don't really see every piece of him that flies off because we get pulled out of battle and then pulled back in with the flashback. It was never shown. It could have broken off. But I thought that was an interesting point to call out. Then we have this moment near the end, right? Eren has the armored titan in his grip. He has his head in between his arm and his torso, and he's squeezing, and he's holding this titan down on the ground. The armored titan pushes the two a bit forward and stops, and then he calls out. At that moment, the sun also came out and the shadows around them started to clear. I think they brought back the thematic element of the weather to show us that we are about to have something explained to us that we did not know before. I think that's what that means. Because then everyone else assumed that the armored titan was trying to call over a bunch of other titans to help him, but what he was actually doing was calling out to the colossal titan, who was a furnace up at the top of the wall, and telling him, hey, I'm over here. That colossal titan breaks apart and falls towards those two, mouth open. To be continued every time. I think this one was one of the worst. We're in the middle of a battle. We're in the middle of the action. Really? Anyway, so now I want to talk about the slide they showed in this episode. The slide was titled Titan Martial Arts, and what it said on it was this: though not typically an impressive exhibition of power and size, martial arts is similarly effective for titans as it is for humans. Grappling holds and throws used against a titan opponent are sometimes more potent than a striking blow. When I first saw this and I read it in its entirety, I was skeptical because it's just taught that you gotta cut at the nape of the neck, you gotta cut at the nape of the... It's just thrown into our heads. But I thought about it for more than 5 seconds, and I realized that this explains why Ymir and Eren are also effective at defeating titans when they don't necessarily go for the nape of the neck. Remember the battle with Ymir and the wall of titans a couple episodes ago? She didn't hit anybody, really, at the nape of the neck that I remember. She fought them, just like hand-to-hand combat with basically martial arts. And that was enough. And it was weird that it specified Titan martial arts. There are like 100 different types of martial arts out there. Which ones work the most effectively? I don't know. They didn't give us that info. But this is a great explanation as to why Eren is succeeding now that he was remembering his actual fighting training. And they also mentioned grappling holds and throws, so it must be a type of fighting that uses those kinds of moves. I'm not well versed in martial arts. I don't know which form of martial arts that is, but I assume that would be the best one. My favorite quote in this episode, it summarizes all of the feelings that Eren was feeling. That quote from Eren is this: I don't know what kind of face you're making right now, but you guys, you really are the worst pieces of shit. I bet in the history of mankind, nobody's done anything as terrible as you. This was his breaking point. We have flashbacks of these titans in his village, eating his friends, eating his mom. First episode lost his mom. In recent memory, I don't know if I've seen Eren this pissed off before. It speaks to the level of mercy he's allowing in this fight, and that level is 0. Yeah, I thought that quote was a great summary of those feelings of betrayal, those feelings of being so hurt, and not just for himself and what happened to his family and all the fights he's been through, but for mankind in general. Like, that is a very, very strong statement to make. I bet in the history of mankind, nobody's done anything as terrible as you. So next I want to talk about a couple of the characters we had some time with in this episode. First one was Mikasa. She was the only one who was really out on the front lines fighting. Everyone else was hanging out at the wall or surrounding the Colossal Titan, but she actively tries to help Eren however she can. She is the epitome of brave here, and I just wanted to give her credit because that took a lot of guts to fight the armored Titan that nobody else could really hurt. They also point out her regret. They have a little flashback of when Bert and Ernie were just about to transform and she was slitting their throats. She said she should have killed them when she had the chance, and then it pulls up their faces, and I think this shows that it's not just Eren who's feeling this betrayal. They do a lot of focusing on Eren, but I think a lot of people feel that betrayal more from Rainer than from Bert, because Rainer actively tried to be this brotherly figure to a lot of people, and I think he did that so nobody would suspect him, and that also hurt a lot of people, and it is now making a lot more of these scouts angrier at him because of how he had tricked them so thoroughly that they would never suspect that he was the armored Titan. So now Mikasa is in battle trying to, I believe, make up for not killing them right away. I think that's what she's doing. I think that's why she was in battle with Eren. And plus, she has basically devoted her life to protecting Eren, it seems to me. I also want to talk about Annie because there are a lot of questions about Titans that have been unanswered, but specifically about Annie, why did she teach anyone how to fight? Because she could have had her Titan powers at that time. Did she have her Titan powers at that time? Did she not? Did she just not know about them? I assume that she did because her, Bert, and Ernie arrived at the same time from the same city. I assume that they had their powers from when they were living in that city. I assume that they had their powers since at least the moment they left their hometown and went to join the 104th. Also, again, I must be forgetting something from season 1 because Annie did not like Mikasa at all, and they made that very clear in this episode. If you know what it is, let me know. If I'm really not forgetting something, let me know as well. I just want to talk about Eren for a bit. It just seemed kind of convenient that he happens to recall a move that worked against the Titans. It was a very Mary Sue move of him, by the way, that he literally, they even show how Annie had done it to him on top of each other. It was an exact replica of that. Also, throughout the episode, he remembers the moves and he kind of holds his own, but also he's taking advice from Armin and Hanji, etc. It's like, does he know really how to fight or not? Because he obviously knows these martial arts moves. He's been taught how to fight. Is he just not fully aware of his surroundings? I don't know. I just thought it was weird that he was a trained fighter, yet a not trained fighter. I don't know. Now I want to talk about some of the developments that had come to light in this episode. Number 1, Titans eat other Titans. Why? Literally, why? My guess here is that, just like in my article that I wrote and put out last Friday, I feel like there are multiple factions of Titans, and there may be one that's trying to be superior, and that's the one that the Colossal Titan and Rainer are in, and Ymir is not in that faction, so they ate her. And also, he ate her in human form, so it wasn't like he was actually eating a Titan in Titan form. Maybe that is like a distinction. Maybe he's holding her in his stomach to take her somewhere safe. There are a few explanations here. It left me with a lot of questions. A lot more questions than answers, that's for sure. We also know that the Colossal Titan can emit heat from his body. Can they all do this at some point? Is it something that they figure out how to do? I assume that there may be others that can do this, but not all of them, because this is the first we've seen of this. And finally, these Titans can communicate pretty easily with one another somehow. I'm curious as to when they get to plan all of this stuff out, because if they're pretending to be humans for 3 years, they have to be very careful about not being caught. There's the the example with Annie's fingers, that we see that they had planned out possibly how to communicate that message. And then there's also what we saw in this episode, the Colossal Titan falling over a certain way. And Rainer had just screamed. He had this planned out along because of how he had positioned himself. Maybe it was a play, like in football, maybe it was a play that they had planned out ahead of time, and then when the pieces were lined up, they ran the play. I just thought it was super interesting how they can so subtly communicate with each other, and they do it in such a way that the humans that are right next to them are none the wiser until after the plan has already come to fruition. Now, that was pretty cool, and I feel like that's an answer I want to have. It's how they can communicate like that. The next episode is Chapter 33, The Hunters. So they actually do a kind of synopsis in the previews of what's kind of gonna happen. They say the battle comes to an abrupt end, and I don't know what that end is. Do they both die from the Colossal Titan? Does one of them die? Do neither of them die? Do they all dissolve? I don't know. That's the fun. My guess here is that Eren's gonna live. That's my guess. Eren's gotta live. Come on. They can't make him this main character and have him not live. Also, Mikasa got hurt in this. I assume so because she's not a Titan and she's trying to fight this Titan. And they also talk about Armin and Mikasa. I feel like this next episode is going to explain why those two stay so close to Eren's side. Even though Eren has these powers and stuff, it's really those two that stick by him the closest, and I hope they explain why. That would be super neat. So I'm excited for this next episode. I think we're going to take a break from the battling and go to some character development that we've been looking forward to. Outside the episode, no new news to talk about in the Attack on Titan world. No new news. Nothing really important to bring up. I did do some poking around on the social media, and I saw this joke. I didn't write this. I can't take credit for it. I thought it was funny. The joke is, what do you call a Titan who can't swim? Titanic! Yeah, get out your groans. Ugh, puns. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. My name is Kimber. For a hell of a large selection of content, visit itsahellofaworld.com or follow them on their social media channels. The article that I mentioned earlier is on the articles, reviews, and blogs page on that website. You can also follow me personally on my Twitter account. That's Kimber Bobimber, KimberBobimber. I am seeing your responses and stuff to the Helluva account as well. It's just harder for me to see when those come in because there are multiple people who run the Helluva social media account. So if you want to make sure that I see this, go to my personal Twitter. Best contact I have for this kind of thing. And that has been episode 4 of Titan Talk. Thanks for listening and attack on!